Hi, in today's episode, we have Tanya Agrawal. She's the founder of Blank Slate. Yes, it's called Blank Slate. Tanya is a political scientist, a foodie, a Kathak dancer, and she traces her roots from Bihar, Hazaribagh. And she's always been asked as to why she doesn't have a Bihari accent. And this is actually my third podcast with somebody from Bihar, and this is something that has been constantly coming up, that people have such a stereotype with Bihar. There are so many people that you meet doing amazing stuff from all across the country, and I don't know from where and why does this bias come up. So Tanya is going to take us through this interview and tell us about her life, why Blank Slate was created, and what does she do to take Blank Slate forward. So welcome, Tanya, in today's episode, and tell me about Kahania that you reinvented into Blank Slate.
Hi, Mahua. Hi, I'm so glad we could do this, and I'm so excited to be here. And, very rightly you said that all the stereotypes that exist from people who belong to Bihar and Jharkhand, and I've been dealing with this since I think childhood now. But they forget that I'm also born and brought up in Delhi, but it's a stereotype that comes with the place. But I'm glad that I'm able to do something that can maybe just take this off, and I'm able to work it out around it. So Blank Slate is my baby. Like literally, it's my baby, and it was born out of when I remember in graduation when 2016 I finished my graduation, and I had literally no sense of what I wanted to do next, and I was perplexed. I just did not know what to do, where to step next. And I remember like every other graduation person who's studied political science and who studied in Delhi University, I went on to prepare for my civil services, and I was just wondering what to do because I was still figuring out the whole landscape, figuring out adult life and everything. And I remember while I was preparing for my civil services, I discovered that my father is going through severe depression, and there's also a clot in his right hemisphere of the brain, and that left me shattered. He was my superhero, and I just did not know what to do. Like I just wanted to help him for everything because he was just there for me, and I just couldn't do anything about it. And everywhere I remember, everywhere I went, and all my relatives, the whole entourage of relatives and friends that we have, they kept on telling me that, maybe your father's overthinking, and it's just, it's another problem. He just needs to stop overthinking. He needs to stop doing this. He needs to eat better. He needs to do this. Every stereotype that we hear with depression, and I just kept on listening to that, and
But
it
Tanya,
just broke my heart.
It's not just depression, actually. It's with a whole lot of diseases. You have the well wishers. If you're going through a heartbreak, you're not allowed to express your heartbreak. If you're
Absolutely.
going through a hard time, you're not allowed to express that. And they
Yes.
will always tell you, come on, get over it. And I still remember, because you and me connected because of the article that had come out regarding my autoimmune disorder. And
Yes.
it's very interesting when you
Yes.
say this to me
Yes.
that
Yes.
for
Yes.
1 year, my closest friend said, oh, come on, you're making such a big deal out of it when I couldn't
Absolutely.
walk,
Yeah.
Tanya.
I
And
know. I know.
yeah, and
Yeah.
mentally, it did such horrible things to me that I started popping painkillers to feel good for about 3, 4 hours. And then again, the pain would just keep coming back. So it's, when you tell me, my heart breaks when you tell me that, your father had to go through this whole thing and you had to go through it also with the relatives who kept saying that,
Yes.
come on, let's
Yes.
just become happy. Like as though there's one switch button, you switch on and you switch off.
And yeah, and then it'll just vanish. I just felt like there was
Yeah.
genuinely some control button which we could, genuinely switch on and switch off, and it would go away. But it just doesn't work like that. You need to suffer, and you need to, like, it just takes its own sweet time,
It
and
takes
you
its
will get
course.
better. And you need to go through it, and there's just no better way, and there's no shortcut to it, is what I felt. And throughout that time when he was suffering from it, and I saw him go through it, and when the whole universe kept on telling me so many types of things, I just felt like, what, enough is enough. I put my foot down, and I said, I'm going to read about it. And I started reading about psychology and so many other ailments and diseases that comes with depression, anxiety, hypertension, Stockholm syndrome, and every other your super egos. I started reading philosophers, and also as a political science person, I was also doing my master's in political science. So I remember I started linking it with so many disciplines. I said, there is just not one way of looking at it, and there is so much work that needs to be done. I started working at the intersection of political science, psychology, and policy and public relations. I just made sure that, there needs to be a concrete solution to this moving forward. And I remember I just started with a small Instagram page, and it was called Kahania first. And I wasn't even very active on it. I just felt like, maybe this is not the right way. And it's just like the whole millennial generation, which is on Instagram, and everybody's just like, you are a generation born out of Orkut and High Five and Facebook, and then you've come to Instagram. I just felt like maybe I'm also doing something like that, but I just felt like no, because I started meeting such amazing people. I just started connecting on so many levels to so many people. And then in 2017, I remember I reinvented it into Blank Slate because I was reading about it also. And so Blank Slate, the term means, it's a John Locke philosopher term, and he has gone on in his writings and emphasized that every time a child is born, he is born with so many prejudices and so many ideologies and beliefs at birth. And all humans are believed, and they have the ability that literally anything and everything, it comes from a certain things. It comes from education, it comes from your community, your gender identity, and the whole process and the stereotypes that we deal with as from a child to adult, and then all phases of life and ages. So I just felt like this is what it is, and I wanted to just make it like that, and I just went ahead with it. And I remember I started working in this field for over 3 years now, and I connected with such amazing talents. I met with so many people who were going through the same set of things, and they came up to me and they told me, we are also suffering, but we don't know where to start, and don't tell this to anyone. And it broke my heart every time I met someone like that. And I just felt like, they shouldn't have, they just should not go through what I have gone through.
It's so interesting when you say this, Tanya, because, of late, because of my podcasting and my writing, I've been talking to so many people all across India. And I think it's mainly here that the whole ostracism of not being able to talk about your illness, not being able to talk about a failed relationship, a failed marriage, a divorce, your child probably, you're not being able to manage your child. They cannot come and talk in a healthy environment and without the fear of judgment. But Tanya, I'm also an optimist because I've met such amazing people, because I think that if there are 10 fingers, there would be two that would be very, very judgmental, but the rest of them would also be the sorts who's going to open their arms. And to me, I think somewhere, Tanya, I have been very open in talking about my challenges that I've faced in my life. And I've found that people lose that fear when they talk to you, when you open up and talk to them and you are vulnerable. Because the minute you are vulnerable, the other person senses that, what, he or she can also be vulnerable and talk to you. And I think that itself is a power that, we all need to start nurturing within ourselves, because it is okay to be vulnerable. It is okay to say that I flunked an exam. It's okay to say that my marriage broke. It's okay to say that, I don't know, I do binge eating. It's okay to say that I do wake up in the morning sometimes not being able to get out from my bed. And yeah, so that's why, I think I completely understand when you say that, it was so difficult because everybody's so worried as to what people will talk about them, what people will think with them. And even it's so terrible that, your own close friends, if you have a bunch of 5 friends, out of that, there would be one or two who turn around and say, oh, I mean, come on, get over it.
Yeah, yeah. It happens so many times, but
Yeah.
I just feel the narrative is for sure changing, with my generation and with the social media. Definitely, there is a whole narrative and so many
Oh, it's
things, and
amazing.
there is so much work being done out there, that is for sure. But there
Yeah.
is also a lot of back end work that needs to go into it in terms of a behavioral nudge, and how people just need to be okay with expressing themselves, with being naked in front of, emotionally naked in front of the other person, being vulnerable, being able to talk about what you have gone through and not just be like, not make a facade in front of you that I am the strong woman or a man. So I just feel like that needs to change. And yes, the narrative is definitely changing. I meet so many teenagers, my friends, my colleagues, and all the people I met through social media and the projects that I've been working on after I started working on Blank Slate. I think that is definitely working. And people are also understanding that kind of intervention. But it's a long, long way to go ahead. And that I can see. But, I'm at least happy that we've started acknowledging this and we're not in that whole space and that whole box, and we're still not that caged. We're at least open to change, and I think that is going to be better, at least for coming generations and coming uh, ages. I think it's just going to be better going forward, that's for sure.
Yeah, so basically, with the future of Blank Slate, I'm sure you're hoping that there would be more people who would come in and write. Is it a platform where only you write, or there are a whole lot of other people also who contribute there?
So, my only vision with the Blank Slate is that I'm creating a community, an
Okay.
umbrella organization where I just want practitioners from so many disciplines and across spaces who come together and they know how to. So, for example, someone who is not feeling okay and they don't know where to reach out to, whom to go to, they can at least come to this place and feel like, okay, I can be heard here and I can connect to the right person and I can maybe speak to this person. He will relate to me on so many levels, just like no one else is able to relate to me. So basically, this is an umbrella organization where I'm trying to create a network of people and practitioners who are in different spaces in health and wellness and psychiatrists and psychologists. Then there are people, script writers, dancers, and poets, storytellers, like a community and organization of people who are doing such amazing work across creative spaces so they can come, reach out to the required and the necessary person at the right time, because I feel that is what needs to be done. We all know that there is a certain kind of problem, but we don't know where to go and how to navigate in this whole sea of and the chaos of life. So I think that is what I plan to do, and that's my vision with Blank Slate. I'm still working on it, and it's still a lot of work there. But yeah, I think it's one step at a time. So I'm working on that.
But Tanya, that's going to be an uphill task because, as a writer, I suffer with feelings of invalidity like once or twice a week.
Yeah.
And most people around me, they just think that this is just not a job at all because being in the humanities, right in the beginning, you're just signed off. Inka kya hoga aage jaake. So I think jobs that are not, at least in India, I don't know how it is elsewhere. I think India is also changing. I mean, I shouldn't be saying this, but if you're
Yeah.
not a doctor, an engineer, or a chartered accountant, or you're not done,
Lawyer.
something that a value, and value means monetary value. There is no other value that people attach. And so also, you'll find people who turn around and say, oh, I'm very busy. And that means that they're very productive. So our whole sense of productivity with value is based on how busy and how much is your bank balance and the rest of it. Yeah, sure. I mean, because in the field of arts, it is very difficult. It is also a space where I think so many people, made me write for free in the initial stage. Tanya, my heart used to bleed. Initially, I did it for a while. And then after that, you're making me write for your brand. Why wouldn't you want to offer me a remuneration?
Yes, they're not remunerating you because they feel it's less of a job, and
it's less of a job, and you start questioning yourself. I used to start questioning my own value in my own eyes because here I was meeting people who are telling you, oh, how wonderfully they've bagged this deal and that deal, and here I was, where I was getting writing assignments, and I was really happy that I was getting the writing assignments, but nobody was wanting to ask me that at the outset, that what would be the fee, how are we going to take this forward in a financial exchange. And so yeah, it's really, really difficult. But also coming back to the conversation that you and me actually began with, that we were talking about. I think today's generation. I belong, to a much older generation where, for us, it was taken for granted that there is a certain age in which you got to do everything. And now, for the first time, I'm breaking that. In my 40s, late 40s, I started writing, and I've started rebooted my career. Okay. But, and I think till about a month back, I was still I was still grappling with, oh my God, it's so late. And, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to go ahead. But then actually, when I think about it, now at this age, when I've seen life, I've had a family, I've managed people, I've put my, things aside. I think I am more empathetic. I'm much more stronger as a person. I'm less, less aggressive also when I was younger. But the whole idea about getting a job at a certain age, being successful at a certain age, getting married at a certain age, having children at a certain age. For women, we are all the time, even for men, but for women, the dagger is all the time hanging on our head. Like, if you are 25 and 26 and you've not had a suitor, around you, oh my God, there must be something really, really terribly bad about you. And that is the narrative so many girls face. So tell me, Tanya, I mean, how do you navigate all these things in your life?
It is so overwhelming sometimes. I just feel as someone, how you started saying that as a liberal arts person and as someone who is very, very passionate towards the humanities, I think that's the first step of choosing to do things that you want to do your own way. And studying the humanities is not very, very accepted in the whole landscape. And everybody feels that, how are you going to get paid for it? Is there a real job for it? And I remember I had relatives who asked me when I took up political science in my undergraduation as a specialization subject. And I studied humanities in school as well. So they asked me, "Iska future kya hota hai?" And I was just like, I am very fond of these subjects. I thoroughly enjoy reading political science and history, and I would make a future in it. Just because I'm not hell bent in management and finance and um, chartered accountancy doesn't make me less of a person. And I just started to feel that, maybe some days are so overwhelming and so I start questioning all the choices that I have made that, maybe I just should have not, I should have just taken the easier way and just done things like, I should have taken the management course and the narrative, but I just felt like that's just not me, I just thoroughly enjoy this landscape and I want to make a space here. And I remember after I finished my post graduation and when I was still researching on Blank Slate, I got a position with one of the most male dominated spaces in the country, which is election campaigning. And I was working with, how election campaigning in India can be. It's the most male dominated space to work in. And I was working in one of the most difficult states of the country, which
Where
is
were you working?
Maharashtra.
Wow. Okay.
I
Tell
was
me a little
working in
about that.
Maharashtra and I was stationed in the Ahmednagar Shirdi constituency for over 2.5 months. And it was so challenging, I cannot tell you. There is a specific notion that I was the only female in a whole wave and a whole sea of men in every rally and every campaign I went to. And it was so overwhelming. Every morning I used to wake up and I was like, oh God, I'm just going to be all alone. I felt so lonely. I felt, even if I'm doing the right thing and even if I'm performing well, because there are so many things that the men only used to ogle at me as if I'm some object. And they just felt like, what will she tell us? She would not have that kind of a mind of her own. And she's so young and she's just out of college. And how will she tell us what to do and how to make policies and everything? That was so, I just felt like this needs to break. I made sure that I was working very, very hard. And I used to wake up at 6, make sure that all my campaigns and all my rally speeches were made and it was written. And I used to sit with my counterparts and my stakeholders, and I used to sit with my politician and tell him that, you have to say this in the coming campaign, in the coming election, in the rally, in this constituency, in this assembly constituency. And I was so thrilled when the constituency won. And I was just like, maybe this is it. And it was just so, it was a little sense of achievement in this whole magnanimous sea of uncertainty and challenges. I felt that, okay, it's not that bad. If you work hard, maybe you can be rewarded and you can be seen. So that was one of the challenges. I said that I know it. I have taken up the route and the path less taken, but now I thoroughly enjoy it. And I'm just going to make sure that it just gets better from here. And after that, after coming back from there, I was researching on psychology and public relations, and then I also went on to do a diploma in psychology, data analysis, and public relations at the intersection of all three, which was again such a difficult combination. And everyone around me is like, what is the scope of this, and why would you do something like this and this and that? And I just felt like, you don't necessarily have to do the things that are established. Once you know that you want to challenge a few things in society, you have to take the plunge, and you have to be very, very clear that you will change and you will make certain amount of, visible dent in the whole process. So I think that is how I tackled the professional aspect of it. And when I moved to my personal life, I just feel, as a woman and as someone who is just 26, I have literally had so many of these thoughts, and there are so many overwhelming nights where I feel I'm at such a very, very marriageable age.
There is nothing called a marriageable age, Tanya. There is nothing called a marriageable
But
age.
Moa, I know. But I'm feeling that pressure to settle down. Like you
Marriageable
said, there is a
age
certain age.
Marriageable age means when are you fertile to produce a child, like the biological clock,
Yes.
right? So eventually you are going to get married just so that you become a mother. And considering the population is so high, I honestly think that people should just get married if they want to live together for the sake of love and for the sake of, probably just being in each other's face every day till they get tired of each other. And I really think, Tanya, with so much that you've done, you must not ever get daunted with this. And this, I know it's going to be very challenging for you. And obviously,
Yes,
because
it
your
is.
parents also must be getting pressured with, with all the relatives breathing down your neck and saying these things to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about your
Yeah,
friends?
yeah.
I mean, do you have the support there, or do you really feel that it bothers you about, this whole thing that you said about marriageable age? Okay. It's
Yes.
yeah. I've also grown up with it, so I kind of relate to it. I know exactly what you're saying, and the stress in your head because you probably think that you're not good enough if you've not been able to get the right man who's going to give you a tick mark so that you can make his home. And it is such a patriarchal setup, my darling Tanya.
It is, but I think the only good thing that happens here is that I have extremely supportive net. Like my cheerleaders, my friends are extremely supportive, and even when they are, they just feel like it's okay. You're doing so many things, and you want to figure out these things for yourself first, which is so necessary to do. And even if you near 30 or 35, it's okay because you just need to be confident before you enter the institution of marriage. And it's just not getting married for the sake of it because you've reached a certain age. Because I feel the pressure because, I am in that bracket and I have a whole entourage of people telling me so many, many stories that you need to do this by a certain age, you need to settle down, have children by a certain age, then you're I've also heard that if you don't get married by this time, it's going to be so difficult for you as a woman to adjust in a new family because you'll be opinionated. And I've had boys who telling me this, like my friends
Because you're
who
going to get
are
wiser.
yes, they are
Not
telling me you're going to get
opinionated. You're going to get wiser. That's
yes.
all. So you see, it's the change of the language, Tanya. The guy who's going to say opinionated means you're going to get wiser. You will turn around
You're
and
going to
say
get
no to
wiser.
things. And that's not
Absolutely.
something that a boy and his family wants. Of course, they want to catch you young when you're absolutely naive.
Naive. Yeah, yes. And I can be manipulated into so many things.
Absolutely. We've all been manipulated. All of us who got married in our 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, we were all manipulated to believe that, the entire shoulder, Ghar ki Lakshmi, and, your child by a certain age, and, you are
Yes.
the I was always accountable in spite of having a career, Tanya, that the dishes and the house had to look clean. My son's grades had to be
Yeah.
okay. And the onus was always on me. And it is so sad that it's taken me so many years today for me because, and I really am grateful for the digital world, for internet, because there's so many people all across the world today who are coming up and sharing their stories unhindered, on the platforms that I am on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And please, do not let anybody bully you. And like you yourself said, that it's an institution. Do you really want to live in an institution? Is the question that we need to ask ourselves. Honestly, the work that you are doing, Tanya, and the kind of work that you've experienced, you would not be able to do it because there's so many people, they lose their careers because of motherhood, because of pregnancy, because you may have complications also with pregnancy. And today a lot of young girls are actually opting out of this whole pedestal that we put mothers on. She's not supposed to get angry. She's not supposed to feel sad. She's not supposed to look sexy. She's not supposed to feel sexy. I mean, it needs to change. It really needs to change.
It does. Moa, I totally agree with you on so many levels. But having said that, there is still so much the opinions and the way people function even today. I feel, when I was growing up, I remember I was raised and I was told all throughout my school life that I have to be educated, I have to be opinionated, I have to be so strong, and I have to be very willed because, I have to stand shoulder to shoulder with every man and workplace that I enter. Now that I've entered the workforce, I just feel so disheartened sometimes. I feel, maybe we have educated our women so much and we haven't educated our boys to be more sensitive and empathetic and understand. So, every time I feel that I was educated and I was believed to be grown up in a time where I was raised with the mindset that I have to be very opinionated, I have to be very headstrong, and I have to walk shoulder to shoulder with every man. And now that I've entered the workforce, I feel during that time also we had to, instead of overprotecting our women, we also had to empower our men, our boys at home. Because when you have working mothers and working wives and working sisters, it is so necessary for the man to lend a helping hand in the household chores. Those are life skills, and they need to understand that it's not just the woman's duty to make ensure that the house has to be spick and spam. It will not make him any less of anything if he comes up and fills the two refrigerator bottles, or like helps in cleaning up after the dishes. It's just so necessary. Every time I see women who come back from work, they will drop their bag and they'll like instantly they will rush to the kitchen, and whereas the man will sit down, keep his bag, and he'll be like, I'm so tired for the day, it was such a heavy work day, and then he'll go back to his room and then he'll Netflix and then he'll chill. It's just that kind of narrative and that kind of change needs to be there in every single house where there are working women, because otherwise I feel it's going to be so difficult for working women and ambitious women like me to come out. And there I was in an all girls institution for 15 years of my life, Mova. I've met such in college and in school, I met such powerful women and teachers and professors and my friends and even classmates, batchmates who we've sat down and we've discussed these things at length. You know how only girls institutions can be.
Absolutely. So did I. I studied in an all girls school.
Yes, so there is so much of sisterhood there, and there is so much of these aspirations and these things that we all share. And I just feel like when I see all these girls getting into this whole trap of marriage and having children, I just feel sometimes I question, there are two things that happen to me. Some days I question, why do I only have to be this ambitious and, I can just not be this, I don't have to be this tough on myself and I can just leave all this and um, be
I
happily
so
married.
wish too,
I'd be
Tanya.
happily married. That is one. And the second is, I wish, why are these girls doing this to themselves? You don't have to listen to that man and your father and your father in law and your husband and your brother and brother in law and that whole institution. So there are two things that happen with me. So I'm just dealing with that kind of dilemma in my personal life. So that is how I'm juggling so many aspects of work, personal, professional crisis and conflict. So yeah, I think it's an ongoing process. I'm also trying to figure out myself with each passing day. So let's see. I just fingers crossed, every day I wake up with that belief that I just have to do what I'm best at. Like that's it right now. That's what the headspace I'm currently operating.
I think you're doing a phenomenal job, and it is so amazing to talk to someone so articulate. And yes, you will go through this duality, which I too go
Yes.
through. I wish that I didn't have
Yes.
to wake up in the morning and start reading up and start, doing all of
Yeah.
this. Sometimes I just wish
Yeah.
I was easier on myself. But I also enjoy this immensely, this whole writing and the voiceovers and the podcasting. And to me, this is such a new awakening for my own self. And I thoroughly enjoy this. But of course, I too go through this whole thing where I keep saying, oh, I wish I could just be very, very casual about life. And I didn't need to think that, okay, I want to make a difference, with my work. And also, like, it's a new me, with this whole podcasting. So I think we are very gifted. I think whoever finds a new self, they should not discard that. And you should continue, even however foolish that thought may be, whether it's like, doing a crochet, whether it's knitting something, whether it's
I
painting.
know.
Yeah, whether it is, teaching some Anganwadi is in a school or teaching some children somewhere, doing something in which your soul is happy, you are a healthier and a happier human being, honestly. And I think I could not have been, luckier to have met such amazing women, and you included, Tanya. You're one of my favorite. You actually came,
Thank you.
yes, you came to me in the beginning when I just started writing, and I was so hesitant
Yes, I
those days.
remember. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's been amazing that we've been in touch. And today you are on my podcast. I couldn't have been more honored to have you, Tanya. And I look forward to meeting up with you in person in Delhi. And thank
Yes.
you
Yes.
for being
I
on
am
this.
also so. The honor is all mine. I think the article also that we did for your feature on She the People was also so. I was so happy to get it. I just feel like there are so many stories that need to be heard and people need to know about it because I know what the pressure of being underconfident and shy and indecisive can be. I've been that I have been that
Also,
kind of a teenager
exactly.
and that kind of a person as a child and as a teenager. So I just feel no one should go through this. And anyone who comes to this platform and who comes to me, I can just help them with whatever little capacity I can. That's my only desire and wish with every step that I take. So that's what I only wish to do with the whole duality and the whole, I think, decision fatigue and every issue that I go through on a daily basis. I think I will learn to deal with it, but I'm sure like
It's so much fun to not learn how to deal with it, also.
yes, to unlearn also.
To
Sometimes it's
unlearn,
very
yes.
important to unlearn.
Yeah,
That's one
yeah.
of the major underlying objectives.
I do want to wake up on some days and I, want to be stressed out. Oh man, I've missed out a deadline. I haven't written. There's a stress, but there's
Yes,
so much fun in all
yes,
of that. I wouldn't want it to
yes,
be so
yes,
boring and predictive, every day that हाँ,
yes.
आज मुझे दाल बनाना है, कल मुझे आलू बनानी है, परसों मुझे सब्जी बनाना
हाँ.
है. मुझे उससे भी वो भी चाहिए और मुझे मेरी बाकी चीजें भी चाहिए. And
So true, so true. Like
hmm,
some days I want that routine, and some days I just want uncertainty. Some days I want to be so productive, and some days I just want to
that's
sleep. You know,
I get
that
it.
is how I operate.
Same here. Some days I wake up like there's a shot in my arm, and there are some days, oh my God, I wish I didn't have to get up today. I wish I would just lie down, listen to
Lie
music, and do
down.
nothing. So
Yeah,
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 so
yeah.
you're not the only one, Tanya, but it's amazing. I
I'm
hope
so
there are
glad. Yes.
more Tanyas like you, and I'm wishing Blank
Oh
Slate
wow.
all the best. And
Thank you so much.
and I look forward. And please tell us your Instagram handle. If people were to find you, where can they find you, Tanya?
I will. Instagram handle is T_tabula rasa, TABULARESA, which is Latin for blank slate. And that is what my Instagram page is. I will also, the link and everything will be provided. So that is where you can find me. And I think I'm more than happy to do whatever little ways and whatever little capacity I can.
Thank you
so much for having me, Momo. It was so good. I just really wish to meet you in person very, very, very soon.
Absolutely. I look forward to that. To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services. Find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course, all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are Moody Mo Awaz Podcast, where Hatke is hot.